Everybody, my name is Vince. I am a Philadelphia 76er and overall basketball fan. I've been watching just about every single 76ers game since 2013. I've been a Philadelphia fan much longer because I'm from the Philadelphia area. Today I just wanted to give you a bit video on why I believe it is time for the Sixers to finally fire Brett Brown. I actually really do love Brett Brown as a man. 2 years ago, at the Sixers' first open practice at the Palestra, it was Ben Simmons' first time suiting up the red-white scrimmage. Brett actually took the time to let me grab a picture with him outside the parking lot. And I just know that he's a really just great, genuine man, really great guy, and a great basketball mind and a good coach. But I just don't really think he is what the Sixers need at the head coaching position to win a championship anymore. I'm starting to sort of compare this situation to the Toronto Raptors situation. They had a great coach in Dwayne Casey, in fact, the coach of the year. But just some of his philosophies, some of the way he did things, and also the fact that maybe he didn't have Kawhi Leonard instead of DeMar DeRozan, led to I forget the name of the Raptors executive, but it led to the Raptors replacing him with, Nick Nurse, who was like, at NBA standards, really an unknown coach, a rookie head coach, and he ended up winning an NBA title. Look at the Cleveland Cavaliers. They got rid of David Blatt, and I don't really think David Blatt was an NBA caliber coach. I think he wasn't that bad of a coach, but they fired him mid-season, ended up winning a title under Tyronn Lue. There's no way that would have happened with David Blatt. Everything happened for a reason. And just to talk about Brett Brown, his, mistakes go back years. Obviously, the defense for him for most of his tenure here in Philadelphia was that, the Sixers were tanking. The Sixers had D-League and honestly international caliber European League players on this team that have not seen the NBA since, just to name a few. Henry Sims, Brandon Davies, Alexei Shved, guys who have just been in and haven't seen the league since. Kendall Marshall, Casper Ware, Jakar Sampson. He's had some stints in the NBA since. Just guys that couldn't even make the NBA just 3-4 seasons later. So Brett Brown finally gets, a good team around him around 2016, 2017. And you just start to see the same mistakes that he was making as a coach in the tanking years translate into the years with now what should be a contending caliber team. I'm talking about late game mistakes, terrible execution down the stretch of games, terrible timeout management, and to elaborate on that, just not calling timeouts in times he should, and always calling timeouts at times he shouldn't. At times where the Sixers would be on I remember once a 17-2 run in a playoff game in the series, either in 2018 against the Heat or the Celtics. I'm not sure. They're on a 17-2 run. You got T.J. McConnell in the game taking over against Boston because Ben Simmons. That's when he had his 1-point game. He was useless. And Brett calls a timeout, switches Ben Simmons in from TJ, and then the Celtics come back, ended up winning that game. Even the national media was saying it was the first time you really saw a coach cost a team a series, and that was not good whatsoever, and really not enough attention was brought to the fact of how badly Brett Brown was outcoached in that 2017 round 2 against Boston. A year where the Sixers arguably could have had a finals berth because of how weak the Eastern Conference was. Now, some people will quickly make the defense that the Cavaliers were beating them, which is a good take. But if you go back to that regular season, Sixers were creaming the Cavaliers every time they played them. The Cavaliers had no answer for Joel Embiid. Celtics did, and they also had an answer for Ben Simmons. They made him look not even like an NBA player in his rookie season and first playoff series. You go down to 2019, Sixers made it all the way to the second round. They had a great closer in Jimmy Butler, a guy who could make up for Brett Brown's terrible late game execution. It was the best Sixers team we've seen since 2001. It was a Sixers team that should have made the finals, that looked like the best roster in the East, and ended up falling short in Toronto. Brett in that series, he did look good in the 2019 playoffs, but he looked good because he had literally the best team in the conference, and they still ended up losing clean as a sheet to Toronto. And now once again he's faced with a team that is not as perfect as his last year's roster was. And we're about nearly halfway through this season, and he has just not made one single adjustment. And not only that, those same mistakes that he's made every single year here in Philadelphia are coming back. Late game chokes. One thing he does is he'll call a timeout, like when the other team goes on like an 8-0 run, he'll call a time, he'll run out to the floor, call a timeout. Oh, timeout Sixers, and Brett Brown's at midcourt. He's not even going to talk to his players during the timeout. He spends half the timeout. I've seen this with my own eyes at the Sixers games. He will call a timeout and just let his players go to the bench, and just stand at midcourt talking to his assistant coaches during the timeout. Go talk to your players and tell them what to do and how to execute better and all this and that. I mean, people will always make the defense that, oh, it's not on Brett Brown to make shots and blah, blah, blah. That's true, but the Sixers have been the worst turnover team in the league just about every single year he's been here, or at least, the bottom 3 tier of the NBA. They're always last in turnovers. They shouldn't be. They simply shouldn't be. They don't call plays at the end of games. They had a few great game winners with Jimmy Butler, but Jimmy Butler is one of those superstars. You just give him an isolation and let him fly. Brett Brown has not ran good plays. It's been so rare that we've seen a great play drawn up by Brett Brown in the game. He's just a good coach. He's not a great coach. And the thing is with this Sixers team is they are still young, per se, in terms of NBA experience. Joel Embiid is 26 years old, but he's really only been playing since 2016. Does not have that much experience. Ben Simmons is still so young. All these other guys are so young. And it takes a great coach, not a great coach, to make these guys execute, have good rotations, have good drawn-up plays and strategies and ways to win games besides just saying, oh, we got to go out there and gel together and improve together and all of this. No, you need a coach that, makes stuff happen, and it just has not been Brett Brown. The number one thing talked about with the 76ers as well, I don't want to make this video too long, is Ben Simmons' lack of shooting. That's right. And no one's really has gotten on him. They said, oh, he needs a 3-point shot. Guys, he doesn't really even need a 3-point shot. He just has to be able to shoot from the mid-range, at least. The way Russell Westbrook does, the way, if you've watched any Sixers against Russell Westbrook game, the way he sizes up the Sixers defender and pulls from the elbow and either hits or misses, Ben Simmons just needs that shot in his arsenal, guys, and the Sixers would be champs. But this guy runs up the court and he turns his back and chucks it every single time. And when you have Al Horford, who can't hit a jumper out there, and Joel Embiid, who takes up so much space out there, yeah, it is a big cluster. It is hard for Brett Brown. But Brett Brown has not subbed Al Horford out with a guy that can come in and just space the floor, including a Furkan Korkmaz. Although Korkmaz is not a better overall player than Horford, he is a better fit in the starting lineup because he shoots the 3. Even Mike Scott, and Sixer fans aren't going to like to hear this because he's been struggling this year, but go back to Brooklyn Nets series, Mike Scott. Just put him in the corner. And if he keeps struggling, we'll keep looking to try and trade him. But, you need a guy that can space the floor when you have these guys that can't do other things. And Brett Brown has not made a single adjustment to his starting lineup. And we're in early January right now. And like I was saying with this Sixers team, although they're young, Embiid is 26, he might have a Yao Ming type career where he does not play too long. The Sixers championship window is smaller than people think. Ben Simmons may be around in this league for 20 years. Joel Embiid may be around for some time, but the Sixers' current championship window with their current team is smaller than people think. And you can't just waste this season trying to experiment this lineup. Changes need to be made now. And besides the fact that the starting five doesn't fit together, the Sixers are going to need to go from a good coach to a great coach. And that's why I believe right now the number one move to fix the Philadelphia 76ers in their current situation to make them closer to a championship team, which they should be at, is to fire Brett Brown. Have a good one.